Welcome boys and girls, Costine here with a discussion about Wildgate, which is at the moment in an open beta, developed by former Blizzard employees under Mike Morhaime. It is basically Overwatch in space from a stylistic perspective. Certainly the UI text does remind me of Overwatch and a lot of different things as well. Though I was also reminded of WildStar as well when I've been playing this game. Though WildStar was very different from a gameplay standpoint. Stylistically, it looked very similar to this. So there is that aspect. I admit I'm not necessarily too fond of this kind of style for a game. I much prefer grittier stuff rather than this cartoonish, over-the-top, ridiculous nonsense. But I guess since Fortnite is so damn popular and earns so much money, then every game has to basically copy Fortnite nowadays. I mean, Apex Legends was in that style, to be sure, to a degree. And WildStar is going full on ahead with it. Although it does share some similarities with Overwatch, it's very, very different. For instance, while you do have classes in this game, they don't have as much impact as they do in Overwatch. In Overwatch, different classes have very different playstyles. Here, the guns can be are shared across all classes, so it's more about the kind of passive abilities, not active abilities. Though there's some active abilities, mostly with regards to travel. But here it's more about like just passive abilities, passive effects that each quote-unquote class, or rather character, does have. We'll get into that in just a bit. As a shooter, it's actually quite interesting because it's very different than many other shooters. So each team, there's 5 teams in total of 4 players each team has a ship. And the ship acts as your respawn point. As long as the ship stays alive, you can respawn no problem. You lose the ship, you lose the match. There's 2 ways of winning a match. You either eliminate all other enemy teams and you're the last one standing and secure a victory for that, or you secure the artifact through the Wildgate. The artifact can spawn very quickly in a match, but actually getting it out of a match is a risky proposition because everyone's going to see that you have it, everyone's going to be gunning for you, and you might end up in a situation where you're fighting 3 enemy ships at the same time, and you might not even have ammo to power your ship. That's another aspect. Your guns, like you, in terms of your personal ammo, like that's very easy to replenish. The ship, however, in terms of ammo, in terms of fuel, in terms of ice, which is used for healing the ship, that is a limited quantity which you acquire across the map. So there's resources, there's fuel and ice all over the map. There's also these dungeons which can contain ammo, fuel, ice, all that, but they also contain ship upgrades. So it kind of feels like a looter shooter to a certain extent, though it's not really a looter shooter from the perspective of like, oh, you go across the map, you get a bunch of really good guns. I mean, there are some, but they're not going to change significantly the way you play from a shooter perspective, but they are going to change the dynamics of ship combat. So a match is a kind of balancing act between upgrading your ship, dealing with enemy teams, and dealing with the artifact. And what kind of strategies you use are going to change your match significantly. Like, you could just rush for the artifact very quickly. You can rush to try and eliminate enemy teams. Or you can focus a good amount of effort in the match going for dungeons against AI enemies to upgrade the ship and then pick a fight with other people. Though obviously that runs the risk that you might be ambushed because the dungeon means that the team is in that dungeon. They're not on the ship. They can be taken by surprise. They can be ambushed. I've certainly seen that before. What I do like about this style of gameplay is the fact that, one, it's very welcoming for newer players. Like, I've played shooters since I've been playing video games, but I'm not a full-time shooter player. And it is very jarring to jump into an online game, regardless of which game that is, and just be overwhelmed by people who do play shooters every single day, that do have that kind of experience, or do play that specific shooter a lot. And that's an annoying experience because it's difficult to learn because you will die very, very quickly in a lot of matchups, and what are you going to learn if you just get sniped from the other portion of the map, right? It can feel frustrating. It also can feel very frustrating in pugs in a game. Like, that's one of my issues with Call of Duty. That's one of my issues with Battlefield. Any shooter, really. So I think here with the dynamic between PvE and PvP, you are going to be able to learn how the guns play, how the guns work, to level up your characters, to get that experience, without having to jump directly into the fire. Though, funnily enough, there is going to be plenty of fire in this game. So there is opportunities in matches if you're an inexperienced player to actually learn a lot about how the game works, and there's all kinds of strategy. It's not just a question of like, oh, which team is the best from a shooting perspective, right? It's gonna be a question of which team has the better strategy, which team can communicate better. Like, it's gonna be a problem in pugs. I don't dispute that, it's already been an issue, but I do find the dynamic a lot more interesting. One of the things I don't like is the ship itself. Okay, I find the idea of ship combat and having a ship as a hub to be great, and in a lot of ways the upgrading system of the ship, etc., is all good, but the ship is, well, just really annoying to handle because of the controls, really. Like, I play a mouse and keyboard, and on mouse and keyboard controlling the ship, steering the ship is just really bad, so I kind of wish that they do improve that specific aspect. What I do like, however, is while you can board an enemy ship, chances are you're not going to eliminate an enemy team. Very high chances by just boarding their ship. It's very easy to defend the ship from the inside, so boarding a ship is less about eliminating the team directly by just, you know, throwing everyone at it, killing the entire team, because they will respawn quickly, they'll ambush you, all that. So spawn camping, kind of a tricky affair. You can do it, to be sure, and you can overwhelm a team, but more often than not, boarding a ship is going to be a question of distracting the team, you know, having them to put down internal fires, and then while they're distracted by that, you might be causing external fires through ship combat. It's a balancing, like, how much offensive power do you want versus defensive power? How many people do you want to focus on boarding actions as opposed to, you know, manning the guns of the ship, which they need to, and someone steering the ship? It is that kind of balancing act. It makes matches quite chaotic, because, you know, at one moment you might be steering the ship, next moment you might be dealing with the border, then after that you might just decide, you know what, the ship is fine, we can leave it to move around or run, move in circles, or have its acceleration set to a certain point, and I'm just gonna go there, board the enemy ship, try and do some damage. Destroying enemy ships also gives you pretty much all they have, and as well as a ship's core, which is a nice bit of upgrade that you can get for your own ship, but it is that kind of balancing act, and I do genuinely like it in a lot of ways, because you do have all these kind of dynamics at play at the same time. I think it's going to lead to some very chaotic matches. I also think it's going to lead to a good amount of frustration, because a lot of people are probably going to pick up this game, are just like going to be trying to just play it as a straight shooter in the sense like, oh, let's just go kill the other people, right? Whereas if you just try and pick a fight against an enemy team without upgrading your ship, without having a strategy, without having some kind of coordination, without having someone that's good at controlling the ship, you're probably going to straight up lose. So I think that's going to be a bit frustrating for a lot of people. For my part, I do thoroughly enjoy it. Performance-wise, the game runs pretty well. Not the best performance I've seen in the shooter, but not the worst. I played at max settings, by the way. Didn't get the best FPS in the world, didn't get the worst. There's plenty of other games that have come out, including online-specific games, that have run much worse than this. So, not the best performance that you could see, but certainly manageable enough. Though, keep in mind, I do have a fairly powerful computer. As a content creator, this is my full-time job. So I'm curious to see how for people who lower end machines this game handles. In terms of customization, the way you unlock different things is you have in the rewards tab different adventures, as they're called. These are focused on different characters, and for each character you have a number of rewards, including unlocking the character themselves, but also things like weapons, tools, and ship types. So there's different types of ships, there's different weapons, different tools that you do unlock, and then you pick your loadout. So you have your prospector, which is your character, different characters available over here. You do start with 3 of these unlocked. So you start with Venture, you start with Kay, you start with Adrian unlocked, and then you can get access to Samo, Sal, Ion, and Muffs very, very quickly. Because if you look at the rewards tab, you basically can unlock the first level or the first few levels within a match, within a single match, or certainly with regards to character unlocking, it's very easy to do. Now, weapons and other things, that does take longer, but it's not really that time consuming. So it is fairly fast from that perspective. Things that will take longer are going to be different skins, that kind of stuff. But equipment-wise, that I do find to be fairly quick and fairly easy to do. Now, you do have your weapon types. So you have an SMG, you have an assault rifle, you have a sniper. You do have a healing gun. So by default, the game gives you an assault rifle and a healing gun. So kind of like a combination of soldier and mercy from Overwatch from a weapon standpoint, though not a skill standpoint, quite importantly. And then you have different other weapons that you can use. And it's like a machine gun, basically, with a painter, or the double whammy, which does damage to ships, so you can use a gun to actually damage ships. How effective this would be, that's a different discussion, but you do have these available. And then on top of that, you do have different pieces of equipment. So you can use a rock to do a high damage to a single target, or a shield wall to stop projectiles. All these kind of things, like attaches on impact, damages ship parts, all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of different things, all kinds of combinations you can go for. I think the default options are pretty solid. Ship-wise, you do have 4 ships currently. So your default one is kind of like a general all-rounder with 3 guns in the front, 80 HP. Then you have Bastion, which is like your walking fortress or your flying fortress with a lot of HP, guns in all directions, and very secure doors, so it's difficult for anyone to board it. Then you have Privateer, which has 6 turrets in the forward deck, though they're not all facing frontally, right? So you have 2 on each side and 2 in the front. And projectiles fire at 2x velocity, so this is a gunship. Then you have your Scout, which is not as durable, though it's more durable a bit than the Hunter. But its advantage over here is speed. So if you have a need for speed, you can go for that. Then you have individual customizations like player cards, fireworks, weapon customization, ship customization, prospectors. So overall, I do like the systems in the game. I think they were potentially planning on releasing this as a free-to-play title, and then decided not to. I guess they were looking to see if they could compete with Apex Legends or with Fortnite, and then, yeah, they just decided not to do that. But there's a lot of Overwatch. You can really feel it in this game. But it is a premium game, so you do have to buy it in order to play it. Probably for the best, considering the nature of the beast, so to speak, in terms of how the actual gameplay works. Like, just getting a bunch of randoms that don't have to invest any kind of time in it, or don't have to invest anything, including money, in it, may not necessarily lead to the best community. So I think they made the best decision from that point of view. That's all I had to say. For what it's worth, I do like it. I've enjoyed my time with it so far. I'm not the first-person shooter guy from why I focus on this channel, but this has been a good amount of fun. Kostin, signing out.